out something for you because you have been gone. What happens to us when you go away is something like what happens to shoes in a dead man's closet. Things inert without breath or breeze to stir them, as if at the striking of a bell or the blow of a whistle or a shot from a pistol, everything moving comes to a standstill. Quite some race this, impossible to find a decent seat. We thought about betting the farm on who or what might make the first move. We were never 100% all there before. Why would we want to be that now? It looks like a struggle ensued where the hair went down. Ah, look at where so many choose to leave their skins behind. We passed along a few blankets and an armful of unworn blouses. We passed you from hand to hand and solemnly swore to unmention your name. Thank you. And now, Terence Winch.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I'd like to thank David Lehman and Amy Gerster for putting out this terrific book. I read the Best American Poetry Anthology every year, even when I'm not in it, although I think it's marginally better when I'm in it. And I also want to echo what Elaine Key said about Tim Dugos, who is posthumously represented in this book. He was an enormously gifted and wonderful poet. And I think the book that David Trinidad is doing, that will be out in a few months, I believe, or somewhere around February, is going to turn a lot of people on to somebody who's, I think, a major American poet, but unbeknownst to many of us. So I'll read my poem, which is called Objects of Spiritual Significance. And I successfully avoided having a real job for many, many years, and circumstances drove me into getting a real job around the age of 40. And I worked in an office for many years, and this poem had its germination in that life, which fortunately is now over. Objects of spiritual significance. People love to humiliate each other. They are fools and liars, and will say or do whatever it takes to advance themselves in the world. They sit one by one on their bar stools, contemplating the failures of others, nibbling every downfall. The men are wearing invisible condoms, the women squabbling over who gets the best stem cells. Electronic clusters of meaningless data force us to positions no one can defend. Immigrants deny they are in exile. Indians believe in assembling reports on the transparency of defeat. Scholars are a joke. They poke through the remains of the expedition in search of self-justification. We know how the universe will end. There will be weeping, of course. Contracts will be canceled. The sun will melt. Sweet young people will be fired for no reason. And language will be packed into a baseball-sized planet heavier than the Earth, and hurled into the nearest black hole. And the next and I think last reader is Matthew Yeager.
I'm Matthew Yeager, and I'm the last reader of the evening, but you're still a good ways from the end, because this is a long poem, and the excerpt, I'm thankful to David and Amy that the excerpt is also quite long too. This is from A Jar of Balloons for the Uncooked Rice, and there's an epigraph from Wallace Stevens from The Man with the Blue Guitar. Pick the accurate colors out. Have you ever had a haircut so bad you cried? When you opened the drawer, after having poured yourself a bowl of cereal? Do you reach for a small or a large spoon? How conscious are you of your posture? Will you agree to let a lover use your toothbrush? Which chemical smells do you like? During which phase of life did you acquire the bulk of your friends? Have you ever quit a bad job emphatically, ripped off a uniform or apron, thrown the balled-up cloth at a superior, and stomped off? Gray EY or gray AY? Who most often terminates your telephone conversations, you or the person to whom you've been speaking? In your bad dreams, do you ever throw the slow-motion punch? Are you punctual? Is your signature legible? Have you ever had a birthday go uncelebrated? What's the largest TV set you've ever lived with? Showers or baths? How much cash do you like to carry? Ever been knocked unconscious? One large winter coat or layers? If you cross paths with someone walking a dog, do you talk first to the person or the dog? Do you eat or give away pickles? What's the highest floor on which you've ever lived? Who is your most promiscuous friend? Do you get jittery during airplane turbulence? How jittery? Do you still drink glasses of milk? How many people have lived with you? How's your balance? Have you ever ridden in a limousine? What are the chances, would you say, of you becoming one day the president of anything? Greater than none? When did you learn to write checks? Can you accurately size up the square footage in a room? What games do you play with small children you meet, such as faking snatching off their noses by poking a thumb between fingers? Where you live, is the night sky starry? How high can you kick? Have you wasted much thought as to what you do where money suddenly no limitation? Cake cones or sugar cones? Are you quick with your wit, or do comebacks tend always to arrive hours later? Do you keep your photos in albums or shoeboxes? Are you handy? Do you cross the street to avoid groups of young men at night? Have you ever been a part of one of these groups and watched others cross streets as a result of you? Do you match and ball socks or just dump them en masse into the drawer? Do you bisect your sevens with one of those squiggly hyphens? Have you gravitated traditionally towards the top or the bottom bunk? Is your tendency to order the same dish over and over or mix it up? Are you easy or hard to shop with? Is your bed up against a wall, or does it sit in the center of a room, accessible from both sides? Do you own any pieces of monogrammed attire, aisle or window seat? When eating out, do you set your knife atop your plate and change hands? What's your favorite cuss word? How long did you call your parents' home your home? How are you at keeping track of which acquaintances you've told which thing that's happened to you? Do you recycle? Do you think that every big lighter you see, when in the hands of a friend, likely once belonged to you? How are you at not losing pens? Are you good at putting together kits? When a friend begins telling a story he's already told you, do you let him go or let him know? When making a shooting yourself gesture, do you do the gun barrel with 2 fingers or 1? Do you insert the finger gun into your mouth or press it to your temple? Do you cut up plastic 6-pack can holders so as to save fish? What colors have you painted rooms? When driving by cows, do you give in to the urge to moo? What is the most valuable to you possession you've ever lost or had stolen? Do you miss it? Would you often rather just stay in the car? Do you always know the day of the week? Are you ashamed, like admitting you don't read the newspaper when you're way off mark? Though in truth, the most you can be off is 2 days. What about dates? Do you find you have to ask aloud every time you're at the bank or when you're on the grocery store floor attempting to pick out milk? Isn't it nice how willing people are to tell you the date? Do you have any original items in your home? Anything with a total production limited to 1? Are you accurate at guessing people's ages and weights? Do you take into consideration their feelings when guessing? Can you fall asleep on your own at the end of the day, or do you need help? Look at your fingernails. Did you just stretch out all 5 fingers, palm out, or did you fold your fingers down over your inward-facing palm? About what parts of life do you have anxiety about having anxiety? Driving? Do you have a system when it comes to pockets? Or do you blindly dump in coins, lighter, iPod, phone, smokes, etc., then fish around each time? Blue or black pens, chunky peanut butter or smooth? When eating bananas, Do you peel them nude at the outset or peel as you eat? Do you tear into wrapped presents or open them neatly with the spoken intent to save the paper? Do you currently own a phone with a cord, AM or FM radio? In school, did you pack or buy lunch? Have you ever made a scrapbook? What famous landmarks have you found especially disappointing? Which do you or would you find more embarrassing? Crying in public by yourself on a bench or laughing out loud in public by yourself on a bench? Would you rather drive or be driven? Ever just want to spit in someone's face so you actually really like the person? Do you engage strangers in conversations on airplanes? If no, it's odd, isn't it, when the time comes to accept peanut packets or order sodas and you hear their voices? Ever wish, if you are right-handed, that you could be left-handed? Do you measure distance in miles or minutes? Is there anything that feels nicer touching the back of the hand than a tassel? What about gently blown breath? Are you in bed at a similar time each night? Do you imagine sleep as a kind of rising? You are a basket being pulled gently up in a hot air balloon? Or as a kind of sinking? You are a flat stone no longer skipping, disappearing through layers of lake. Can you ice skate? Do you own a bathrobe? Do you go to movies alone? When eating out, do you prefer in general to face the crowd or the wall? Are you a person that has certain items that are unequivocally yours? A coffee mug, a side of the bed, a chair, a place at the table. What names have you thought to name children? How many different bathrooms would you say you use on a given day? Are there bathrooms not your own that you consider a pleasure to use, even look forward to using? Are you shy? Do you save receipts? Have you ever made love outdoors? Before throwing spaghetti into the pot, do you break the bundle in half? Can you recall a bowel movement that produced the thought, wow, this is the biggest and best bowel movement of my life? What did you call bowel movements as a child? How old were you when you learned to read? Do you nap? Isn't stretching something you always feel you should do more of while you're doing it? Why must we always draw a blank after entering a record store? What's the strangest non-food item you swallowed as a kid? Do you use Post-it notes? Are they still there? Those ascending horizontal lines that marked your growth as a child up a wall or a door? In how many cities and towns do you know your way around? Can you describe to me your most frequent freak-out fantasy? Or do the particulars of your situations vary, so that it's always a new table you're overturning or bus window you're punching out? Do you ride the bus? How is your hand shaped? Can you ever know for sure if it's too hard or too soft? When at a museum, do you like to walk around by yourself or take the tour? Can you recall how the moon looked the first time you saw it through glasses, if you wear glasses? When cooking, do you eyeball or measure? Do you buy low-fat products? In which of these opposing cliches, absence makes the heart grow fonder, or out of sight, out of mind, do you find more truth? Do you go each time to the same barber or hairstylist? When at the barber or hairstylist, do you tend to talk about hair, or realize that people there must always talk about hair? Was your Christmas tree, if you had one as a child, fake or real? What was it topped with, an angel or a star? Have you ever purchased an item with the secret intent to return it? In which of your pockets do you carry your wallet? Were you breast or bottle fed? Can you write it all with your opposite hand? Do audiences affect your attempts to urinate or parallel park? Do you rise to occasions generally? Butter or margarine? Do you bookmark or dog ear your books? How do you show love to what is yours? By wearing it in or attempting to keep it pristine? Do you not mind fighting losing battles? When was the last time you wrote a handwritten letter that was not a greeting card? Have you ever collected unemployment? Do you check the dates on coins? Did you play sports? If so, what was your preferred number? Were you a planned or unplanned pregnancy? Do you save hangers from dry cleaners, amazed that they're free?